breaking free. Yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression. It's out for liberty. Breaking free. Yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts. We're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. We're claiming our land, yeah.
Welcome, everybody. We have an exciting Friday night planned. We have some big guests here. I'm so excited. Welcome to Are You Smarter Than a Politician? Your Friday night fun if you like politics and joking around. So joining us tonight, Chase Oliver, the Libertarian presidential nominee for 2024. How are you tonight, Chase?
Doing all right. Enjoying a night at home and relaxing and having my post-election beard. So it's been great.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Also joining us tonight, Larry Sharpe. He is the host of the Sharpe Way. He is a Marine veteran, and he was the gubernatorial candidate for the Libertarian Party in New York. How are you tonight, Larry?
I'm doing good. Good to see Chase again. Sadly, I had to write him in last year because we don't have ballot access in New York State. So, but maybe I'll run next year. Maybe I'll get it. You never know. Third time's a charm, perhaps. We'll see.
That would be excellent. And a last minute addition, Matt Johnson had to bow out with illness. And we got Ryan Woodcraft, who just got a historic victory in El Paso, Texas. He got elected to the school board. How are you tonight, Ryan?
I'm doing excellent, Free, and 100 points to you for acknowledging my historic victory here in El Paso, Texas. I'm excited to be on. This is probably the first time where I'm not the most important candidate you've had on this. Usually I'm up against Casey and David and Joe. So I'm not sure how this is going to work being the underdog tonight.
Well, I wish you luck, and it couldn't go any worse than any previous performances. So we've got that going for us as well. So, and I want to point out, Matt was going to be here. Matt is the Libertarian Party of Florida chair, and next week we'll be live from the Libertarian Party of Florida convention in Daytona. How we're going to do this live, only Casey knows at this point. So he hasn't filled me in, but apparently we're doing it live and it's going to be awesome. So excited about it. So join us same time Friday next week. Actually, it's 8:30 next week. It will be live on the internet, also live in person in Daytona. I am free. Joining me as always is the great Terry Batts, our producer. How are you tonight, Terry?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to go. This is so exciting. The chat's already blowing up. I might never make it through the night, but it's going to be all right. Keep it coming, guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Terry. We are on YouTube at Freedom Uncut. We are also on Rumble at user/Freedom Uncut. I wanted to take this opportunity. These three guys do such a great job of promoting other people and promoting candidates. I wanted to take this opportunity that we're going to have a big audience tonight to point out some of our friends. Casey does the They Both Suck podcast. There's Secret America with Jack Danger and James Cleary, Township Liberation with Mike D. I put Sharpe way up there because, of course, that's one of the best shows on the entire internet.
True.
The LP Alliance does a great show. Green Man Reports is excellent. Burn and Tea, The Legacy Right, and of course, all of our friends at the Black Powder Podcast who have been on here, great people. And I also wanted to give a shout out to our friends there on the side. Take a screenshot, grab these, meet all these people, really awesome people. And I wanted to say a special thank you to my VA lady who helps out Larry and a bunch of our friends and does an excellent job. If you need her help, she's at my VA lady on X. She is wonderful. So grab her if you need her. Also, I wanted to point out Freedom Superstore is up and running. We have many sales so far. No, I'm just kidding. We've got a few sales and they're doing good. But if you want a taxation as theft shirt, or my other car is a killdozer, if you want any of those, we have them on the freedomsuperstore.com. Please share this out. We're hoping for some big numbers tonight. We're already over 5,000, which is exciting. So lots of people joining us. Happy to see everybody here. Share it out. Bring in all the fun. And of course, if anybody were to win tonight, they get the Ron Paul holding the Ron Paul trophy, the Ron Paul bobblehead, the Murray Rothbard bobblehead, Mike Johnson's signature cologne, Swamp Ass, as well as the Ayn Rand Fountainhead teddy bear. And of course, the Lego Killdozer, because we have to talk about the Killdozer. So the rules are, I am the government. Whatever I say goes. Scoring errors count. Life isn't fair. Suck it up, Buttercup. Nobody cares. Nobody ever listens to the rules, but our contestants could possibly debate each other if they find something that they want to go at it over. They could veto someone else's answer. They could tariff someone else's answer and take their points away like Trump would. They could redistribute an answer in a very democratic way. If somebody worked hard for an answer and you don't want to work hard and you just want to take their answer, you could redistribute their answer. And of course, you start off with negative 500 points because the government gets paid first. That's how it works. Scoring works as follows. The chat controls the score. So you can give or take up to 100 points away from a contestant. Please tell us why. If you have something to add, we put it up on the screen. Let us know. All right. We will put Terry back into the back again, and she handles all the chat and the scores. Hopefully 7,800 of you will make her life extremely hard tonight. So, and let me do real quick while I'm putting Terry back there. Let me say hi to a couple people here. Shirley's here. Brandon, Scientific's here. Peace Logic's rooting for Larry. Zach's here. Patty's here. Burn and Tea's here. We got a bunch of people. Man, this is on fire. Dr. Belay is here. What's up, Charlie? Missy's here. Welcome. Rooting for Larry. My VA lady. Like I said, virtual assistant service. She is awesome. Hire a libertarian. They're good people. Dana's here. What's up, Dana? Oh, Scientific's getting on the scoring 100 to Chase so I can vote for him again. That'll show him. That's a great one. I like it. Casey's here. Casey's driving to Florida to join us for the convention. So Casey's not here tonight. Check out his podcast. Chris is here. Noxie's here. Sherry, negative 100 to Ryan for whining. Yeah, that's great. Matthew's here. 100 to Ryan for being second choice. OB's here. 500 to Ryan for being here. Excellent. All right. Well, let's get into it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is exciting. Almost 10,000 already. This is pretty cool. All right. Lightning round. Chase will go first. Our presidential candidate gets the honors here. Chase, the question to you. So it's a yes or no question, but give us a sentence about why you answered yes or no. Economic growth is the category. Should we eliminate the Federal Reserve entirely, Chase?
Yes, because I don't like the way they manipulate the market, and we should obviously get rid of it.
All right, Larry, to you.
That's minus 100 points. Minus 100 points to Chase for that. That's too cheesy. Not a good answer. Minus 100 points for Chase.
All right. So your question is, should the government be banned from giving subsidies to corporations?
Yes. The issue that we have with that is right now, so many corporations literally are the only way they make money is through government subsidies. With that in mind, we have to wean them off. So we have to say something like, hey, you've got 1 year or 2 years or whatever the case may be. Let them know in advance that it's going to happen so they can somehow react. If not, we're going to encourage monopolies. So we have to get rid of it, but they have to know in advance so they can somehow work for it, maybe do some buyouts, things like that. Because it's just like if a kid were 18 years old and we had never given them anything whatsoever to help them. And then all of a sudden now they're 30, they've been living in our basement, we've been paying for everything. And we all of a sudden tell them to leave. They need to leave, they're 30, but we got to give them something. So I think we give them a couple years, whatever, let them know, then cut them off.
All right. Ryan, to you. Should all occupational licensing be abolished?
Absolutely. I think when you look at some of the industries that we have occupational licenses before, I think it really starts to tie to wage manipulation and making sure that the government gets their cut. That's something that you can easily let the free market handle. Very similarly, like plus 100 points to Larry for wearing David Moscrip's shirt better than David wears. We don't need occupational licensing for David Moscrip to wear the same shirt.
Shout out to David's shirt. Excellent.
I do like that. I want to give him another 100 points for saying that cool thing. That was cool.
But you lost some points for not knowing how long one sentence is. So, but you got more points. You got a bunch of points here. So excellent. Lisa Blaze here. Welcome, Lisa. She gave 250 to Larry. Yes. Welcome, Lisa. All right. Chase, to you. Should Americans be allowed to use any currency they choose, including gold or crypto?
Yes, absolutely. I don't care if you want to barter with chickens. If your buyer agrees to take what you're selling and agrees to take whatever currency you're exchanging, it's not my business what they do. And trade what you want to trade: gold, currency, cryptocurrency. Like I said, chickens, whatever tickles your fancy, do it.
Excellent.
There is a problem with that, though. No. We have to make sure that we don't allow the government to trade in all currencies. We don't want the government controlling cryptocurrency. So, yes,
people, not governments. People can trade those things. Government has to stay within its own rules. Stay in your own lane.
Yes.
All right. Larry, to you. Should interest rates be set by the free market rather than a central bank?
These questions seem kind of easy. Aren't they kind of easy?
That was part of my speech that you blew off right before we came on. But yeah,
I know. So
I said
okay,
literally
yeah.
they were easy.
All right. No, central planning is awesome, and the central bank is great. And I don't know. Ron Paul's probably yelling at me right now for me even playing that game. No, of course the market should do it. However, I'll do a however again. I'll try to make it special, and I'll go over my sentence so someone can be mad and take my points away. We want to make sure that when we get rid of the Federal Reserve, and we do, that we understand that right now America is built upon debt, and if we just trash it, that immediately it is going to devastate our economy, and our country is not ready for it, and they will immediately beg for dictatorship. So instead, let's do what I think was a great idea. Let's get Ron Paul to come in. This is what we talked about in the past, and have him dismantle it. I'll give one very interesting piece from a while ago. This was back when Adam Kokesh was kind of running around the Libertarian Party. He had an idea. He said we should do a kind of almost like a bankruptcy or receivership process. I think we do that for the Federal Reserve. It might take a little bit of time, but now we do that, and now we can get rid of it.
So you'll probably get some points since you used one of your 35 sentences to mock me in my game. But did you see how you tied that into a story about Kokesh and explained to people? We got 14,000 people watching. They learned something.
They did. And Kokesh also, by the way, is a Marine, just like I am. There
you go. So there's a method to my madness. Just trust me, for at least, a few more minutes, but
I like it.
All right. Ryan, to you. Should small businesses be exempt from all federal regulations?
Yeah, and I would take it a step further. I mean, small businesses need to be exempt from state commerce regulations as well. When you look at free market capitalism, if your product is good and the price is good, people are going to buy it. If your product sucks or the price sucks, they're not going to buy it. You know, the American consumer wants the highest quality product at the most reasonable rate without any gimmicks. And the only thing that those regulations do for the most part is, again, market manipulation. So get rid of them.
There's a problem with that, though. You can't do that because small businesses, some of them will actually go across state lines. And if they go across state lines, you can't do it. You have to follow a rule that Wyoming has right now, and that should also be in New York. If the small business agrees to sell only within the state, yes, that's true. But if it sells across state lines, there will have to be some type of rule or regulation for how do we deal with things like people who don't pay, or if someone lies, or fraud, or something like that. So there may have to be some form of regulation if they cross state lines for things like fraud and theft and things like that.
I didn't realize Larry used the debate card there. Are we debating here? Are we debating in the first round?
I get to debate, so I'm debating every time, making this interesting. Yes, every time.
I'll add to the answer there, which is what we are all agreeing on is that the amount of regulation the federal government has is way too large. And if we could actually scale down what they do, they could better focus on areas like fraud, where people are being frauded, instead of every other little regulation that they put themselves into. On like, how many widgets do you put in your gears or whatever, right? Like how many things do you put in your machine, like whatever. Just every micromanagement that the government does takes away from the broad management of making sure people aren't being frauded, people aren't being poisoned, people aren't being severely harmed by others. And that's really the main purpose of government, is when there's an intrusion upon your liberty and there's an invasion there, you have to have some way to adjudicate. And the more they micromanage everything else, the worse they are at actually adjudicating those real disputes and addressing those real concerns. So they F up because they're terrible at doing most everything else.
Well, and I think, Chase, to that point, what you're really talking about is small businesses should be held accountable for crimes that they can commit against consumers. And I don't think that particularly the way the question was framed about federal regulations really ties to that, right? I'm not saying don't prosecute crimes. I'm saying don't overregulate small businesses because it crushes the market economy. As someone who lives in a border town, right, not just with another state, but with another country, you remove some of those regulations and our economy is going to boom. But right now, El Paso's got the seventh largest or whatever smallest GDP in the state you want to call it. We bring in $44 billion a year, which sounds great. Until you look at Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, Corpus Christi, they're all over 200 billion. Why?
We get it. Texas is big. We get it.
Oh, yeah,
Texas is big.
Yes, right. So I'm not saying don't prosecute or litigate crimes against consumers. Absolutely. But when you start regulating small businesses and how they do business, now you're just doing market manipulation so government can get a cut.
But when it comes to being big, I live in the biggest city in the country. So I got you all beat. 8.5 million being punished here in New York City. We're all being punished in New York City. So yeah.
Hey, most of you are there voluntarily. I don't want to hear it.
Well, yes, but not all of us. Some of us can't afford to move. But yes, most of us are here voluntarily. There was a time where New Yorkers would easily put up with the communist state that I live in because the opportunity was so great. We didn't care. We're like, you know what? Beat us up, because if I can come here, I can make $1 gazillion and then buy some cool place someplace else and leave. Those days, sadly, are over. And so now the city struggles. Now the only people who come here are people who are already rich.
All right, so back to it. Chase, to you. Should property taxes be outlawed as an infringement on ownership?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Yeah, because if you have property taxes, you can never really own your property. The state will always inevitably actually kind of own it, because if you don't pay those property taxes, they'll come with guns and seize it and put you in jail. So I think property taxes are some of the worst kind of theft. It's also, unfortunately, the way the public school system, the government school system, is funded in a lot of counties, which leads to the more prosperous, high value properties having great schools, and the places in lower cost properties having less quality schools. And the reality, we just need to be freeing people up from having their zip code determine where they go to school. And it all goes back to property taxes, which are theft. And it's one of the worst kinds of theft, because it takes away, our most valuable right, which is, one of the most valuable rights, which is property rights.
I'll add on top of that, one of the worst parts is in a place where I live, where there's so many renters, people who are renters think they're not paying property tax. They think the property tax is only for the people who own the properties. But of course, we all know they're paying it through their rent, but they all think they're not. So property tax is even more insidious. I'm adding on top of what Chase is saying. I'm agreeing with them and adding more, because the renter thinks they're not paying it.
All right, Larry, your question is, should income taxes be eliminated in favor of user fees?
Generally speaking, no. They should be eliminated, but not in favor of just that. There's many other ways that you can raise money to pay for things. If you just do user fees, that can be one option, but there are other ways you can do it. What I always say is socialism is wonderful when it's someone else's money. And places like Norway and Singapore have figured this out. So they have massive sovereign funds. So they use other people's money to pay for their social stuff. It's great. Socialism is wonderful when someone else is paying, right? If it's Ryan's money, everybody gets healthcare. Ryan's paying. I don't care. But when it's our money, it doesn't work. So I think you could do it, yes, but you could also find other ways of raising money, like sovereign funds and things like that. So not only, there are other ways too.
People are liking it. Missy says this is sassy. Yep, it is sassy. Cat's loving Ryan.
Well, Ryan's paying for our healthcare, so yeah, it's fine. That's why she loves him.
Larry's idea of minarchism actually paves the way to agorism. See, we're learning stuff here.
True.
500 to Chase for explaining the adjudication process. Minus 250 to Ryan for being the only dude not having a flag in the background. Facts.
And he's the only one not, well, other than you, Free. Me and Larry both have self-promoting signs in the background.
True.
Promoting ourselves, because we are true libertarian politicians, and we must constantly have stuff with our name on it behind us to remind people who we are.
It's not quite Joe Hanoush level where he's got the yard signs and he just kind of crouches in front of them. But
I have a yard sign. If you see, I have like a yard sign mosaic behind my couch. So anytime someone comes to hang out, they know. They know.
There you go. All right, Ryan, to you. Should sales taxes be capped at 5% by law?
Oh, man. Oh, that's a good one. So I look at sales tax as more of a consumer tax, and I think there should be more flexibility built in based on the product and the duration if there is a loan to be taken out. So if you look at something like a home loan, yeah, I can see that. If you're looking at a car payment, I think there's a little more risk there. And so I think those individual lending agencies should have a little bit of flexibility, but I don't disagree with having a cap for consumer protectionism, similar to what we talked about with Chase before.
All right.
But if we do that, we can go up to 9%. We can go up to 9%. We can go up to 9% because God wants 10%, right? Tithe. So we want to be under God, 9%. We'll do that.
Is that how that works? That's the measuring stick.
I literally just made that up just now.
Oh, okay.
No. Look, somebody get Larry the purple crayon so he can chew on something while we finish the game show, please.
Red is the best color. Thank you very much. That one tastes the best. Okay, get it right.
All right, Chase, to you. Restoring civil liberties. Should Americans be able to refuse all biometric data collection?
Yes, and if you want to sell that data, you should be able to on the open market, because it is your data and it's kind of your personal property. And agreeing to sign on to a lot of these firms, a lot of times when you're on social media, you are giving that away for the service of using it. So beware and make sure you're being aware of what is being collected about you. It's not just the cat videos you watch, but yes, you should be able to opt out of any biometric data. And you should be able to put a value on that data if you want to sell it in the marketplace.
Excellent. Larry, to you. Should the Patriot Act be fully repealed?
Not only, I'm gonna copy Chase, so I can give him 100 points because I'm copying. I'm doing a yes and too. Not only should the Patriot Act be fully repealed, we should have an amendment, because we don't listen to the Constitution, that says something like that can never happen ever again. The idea that we can create a Patriot Act because I'm scared, so everyone has to lose their rights, is a terrible issue. The problem we have here is most of the times, prior to the lockdowns, Americans government is to take our rights. We voluntarily beg the government to take our rights away. We do it all the time when we're afraid. We're afraid, so we give up our rights. Then we still stay afraid. Nothing gets safer, and we never get our rights back. So yes, and there should be an amendment put together that it can never, ever, that type of thing can never be passed ever.
Hey,
Ryan, to you.
Before we switch, I just want to ask you guys a quick question. Let me just interject here. If one were to have a chance to speak to John Ashcroft at some point in the future in a debate type setting, what would y'all say about the Patriot Act? Because, just for reasons. Larry, do you think we should really hold John Ashcroft accountable for being the first DHS secretary and draw the line from creating DHS to all the abuses we see the Trump DHS doing right now, violating due process?
No.
Can we draw that line?
No, I absolutely blame the president. I blame George W. Bush 100%. The leader, he could have stopped it. He could have done anything. I don't blame the guys for showing up going, oh, great, I have an opportunity to be a tyrant. Thanks, G.W. Bush. I don't blame those guys. I blame George W. Bush specifically, and I blame Obama for not ending it right after him. Obama had the option to end it. He did not, and he should have. Biden didn't end it either. Trump didn't end it either. So, yeah, I blame George W. I blame the leaders. They had the option and the bully pulpit. George W. Bush in 2001 could have told us to do anything. And he told us to shop and shut up. That's what he told us to do. When there were so many things he could have told us to do, we would have done it. We would have done it. And so his fault completely.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Larry there. I think when you look at that time frame in American history, there was so much emotion and so much sensationalization that anything could have happened. Congress isn't going to pass. And here's where I'll disagree with you, though, Larry. Congress isn't going to pass a law to abolish the Patriot Act, let alone pass a law that says we can never do it again. Nor are the states going to ratify an amendment, only because the Patriot Act paved the way for the massive growth of the military industrial complex and the intelligence apparatus. And I think by repealing and not just abolishing, but eradicating any form of something like that ever coming back again, that part of the economic device that's government controlled is going to collapse, and politicians would have nothing to do with it.
But
so I think
two
that's one of
pieces
those
here.
things.
One, the question was should, not can or will. So I agree with you. The odds of it happening are slim. But in the should, it should, and the person who would do it would be the president. The president has to lead it, particularly if they were in charge. I'll go back to President George W. Bush. You know it. Look, I was ready to join the Marine Corps again after 9/11. That's how motivated I was. I'm in New York City. I saw the second plane hit. I was all up on that. Now, obviously, that was all bad and wrong, but that was the emotion you talked about. I felt it too. We all felt the emotion. George W. Bush could have told us to do anything. We would have done it. Obama, when he won, he was the transformative president, or so he told us. He could have ended it. He could have pushed it. Trump just won now with the mandate. He could push it. If a president got 100% behind this, if they did, and you're right, Ryan, they're not going to. But if they did, yes, it could happen, and it should. But I agree with you. I don't think it would.
If we're giving out points for hating George Bush, I just want to point out that I've been protesting George Bush since I was 18 years old. It was the first president I ever protested because it was the first president I was an adult and able to travel to protest. I got pepper sprayed protesting the very wars that he started. So, and then when Obama got elected, all the people who were protesting with me disappeared for some reason, unfortunately. And that's why I'm a libertarian. So, I guess silver linings to a storm cloud, right?
Yeah, Larry, I was in basic training when September 11th happened. So that was an interesting time, right? And I think, matter of fact, Free, I think you and I talked about this week. If we were to cut our federal spending in half today, it would only put us at the Obama administration level of spending. And I think if you were to trace that back to how much growth we've had in the intelligence and Defense Department industries over the past 20 years, make-believe statistic, I think 70% of that could be directly tied back to the Patriot Act and technology to support it.
Yeah, 50% of New York State growth recently has been due to the military-industrial complex. That's true. And over half of our manufacturing is in America, all across America, is somehow tied to the military-industrial complex. Only about 10% is actually like weapons and such, but all the other things that it builds, about 50%. If we had gotten rid of that, we'd have to actually build stuff. We wouldn't have this fake GDP that we have now. The military-industrial complex creates this. You're totally correct.
Going back to pre-Patriot Act spending would take us from over $7 trillion down to under $2 trillion. So, yeah, that would be a big savings. Larry lost 100 points. Red crayons have red dye 40 and they're illegal now. So
doesn't mean they don't taste good. Fruit Loops still taste good. I said taste. I didn't say it was good for you. Taste good. Taste.
OB gave Chase points for protesting against Bush. Yeah. So did Scientific. Yep.
I agree. I agree.
David took points for you guys making sense. I don't really understand how that works, but yeah. So, all right, back to it.
Well, because David took points, that counts as a double negative, right? Because David is negative inherently. So I think that actually is positive points for Chase and Larry.
I like that.
All right, Ryan,
And
to
using
you.
math.
Should the government be banned from using facial recognition software in public spaces?
No, however, I think anybody should be able to sign. I don't know if I would say a waiver or a declaration, but individuals should have to give the government authorization to collect on them. I don't think they should be allowed to freely collect. I think that's in my opinion, I think that's a Fourth Amendment violation. And so I think, citizens would have to basically sign a waiver that gave government authorization to collect on them using that type of software.
So
Daniel's saying we need more Sharpies in the chat. And while you're on YouTube, please follow me too, so I can get out of the YouTube dungeon, please.
yeah. So hey, I want to just say one thing. Do you remember now? We protested mask mandates, but before that, we were protesting no mask mandates from government when government wouldn't allow you to wear a mask in public because it would violate them collecting facial recognition data. I think we need to get back to that period where we're protesting governments saying we can't cover our face up to be not documented by them. I'm all for messing with their algorithm. So wear all kinds of confusing things. Wear a mask that is someone else's face over your face and really mess with the cameras. I live in Atlanta, which is the most cameraed city in America. We have more CCTV cameras in my city of Atlanta than any other city, including Larry's city of New York, which, as he pointed out, has 8.5 million people, but less cameras than Atlanta. Isn't that weird?
It is weird. I'm a little bit jealous right now, Chase. I thought we owned everything bad. Now I got to work on that. Let me see if we can get some more cameras.
Nope. We're #1 in government surveillance. We even have a program where you can opt in to have the government watch through your Ring cameras and other cameras, where you can opt in for that. It's a little spooky to me that the police could just be watching, your living room camera or your Ring camera or whatever. I'll tell you, I ain't opted into that shit.
Yeah, and it's widespread, right? It's not just government cameras. It's the Alexa thingamadigger. It's Siri.
Yep.
It's you name it. And so I think there needs to be express consent by the person in order for the government to do anything with that. When you look at Moore's law and how that pertains to technology and technology increases, over the years, this is only going to become a bigger problem. And so how do we protect our privacy? And without the express written consent of those that are governed, I think it's just going to get worse.
I like Mike's idea of all of us just wearing Darth Vader masks.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
That's good.
The circle is
All
complete.
right.
Now I am the master. Yes.
Chase, to you. Should people be allowed to refuse all vaccinations without government penalty?
Yes. And I think the biggest impediment to this is the fact that we have a giant government school system. If we didn't have government schools, you would be able to choose the vaccine schedule for yourself and the school you want to go to and let it determine the vaccine schedule for its student body, which is where most of this debate happens. But I think I'm somebody who thinks you need to determine that for yourself. Go to a doctor and someone you trust, and don't trust that trust in the educated folks who are there for you, not just government bureaucrats, is really where it needs to be.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
there is an issue with that. There's two issues. Issue number one is military. That's issue number one. Things like that EMT schedule, things of that sort. Do you want to? Do you not? It's just a question. It becomes a whole lot vaguer when it is now government employees doing government things. That's when it becomes a bit vaguer. The school system I get completely, and if you made it to where anyone could go to any school, you could make it very easy. Private schools, if you didn't have the government system at all, something like that, that makes sense. The worry though is, would people want to? Would they demand it within government schools? So I think Chase is right. I just want to add on top of it, the issue we deal with will be military going into the countries. They might have rules, right? So if I'm now stationed in the Marine Corps and I've got to go over to Japan, and Japan has these rules, I'm an army, I got to go to Germany, and Germany has all these rules, I might have to accept getting a jab if I'm surrendered myself to the government by enlisting.
That's a contract. You're right.
Yep.
But it's a voluntary contract, Chase, right? Like we
Correct.
choose to sign those away.
Yep.
And I think that was my whole point is, right, like you have to make the choice to subject yourself to those type of government regulations, not just willy-nilly because they want to.
I love how long libertarians make our lightning round. It's just like convention.
It really is.
This is the second longest lightning round ever. Did you watch Maj's show?
No, I can imagine.
No, well, he gave me the option to debate. That was his fault. That's his.
You
not mine.
already
He said
used
I
your
could
debate, Larry. You already used it.
You
I don't have
he didn't
cards.
say one. He
You
didn't
used
say
it
one.
during my opening instructions. You used your
I
debate
only
then.
get one.
Yeah, that was it. One. It was just one.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
darn
the
it.
government. You think I'm going to give away good stuff just
well, now I got to
willy-nilly?
bribe you because you're my government. Now I got to give you cash so you let me do what I want.
Exactly.
This is like during the nomination process when they would give us like 3 or 4 cards to throw out. And we, whoever I'd be sitting next to would be done. And like Jacob Hornberger would look over at me and be like, can I have a card? Or I would do the same thing, look over at, can I have a card, man? I really have something I want to say.
That's why I gave the cards out, Chase. That was the whole point. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Larry moderated one of those.
I have a time limit when I moderate. I got to make sure I'm out at a certain time. So I give the cards out to ensure I don't go long. If you ever noticed, I'm always out on time with my debates. I'm always out on time.
We're just making free sweat over here.
I'm not sweating. I'm loving it. We got over 20,000 people enjoying the world's longest lightning round. It's more of the molasses round, but that's fine. Keep sharing it out. If you're liking what you're seeing, bring more people in. Scientific gave Chase 100. I'm signing up to let the government use the camera I'm putting in David's pajama drawer. Larry liked the Darth Vader mask. That's 500. 300 for being a rebel. Let's mess with that algorithm. Minus 1,000 to Larry and Chase for living in the North. I don't know.
Chase is in Atlanta.
The North. Yeah.
North of Miami.
Chase is not in the North. Chase is not in the North. Don't say that. Now you're insulting me.
I don't see snow on a regular basis.
Larry left.
I'm
there
sorry,
it
guys.
is.
I just had to give you my. Hold on.
There you go. Wait, what was it? Is it hidden somewhere that you had to turn your camera off to?
Don't make me
got
go
like a
grab
secret stash?
Star Wars. Don't make me go grab Star Wars things because I will.
I just did. I wanted to, Chase. I wanted to show you that. Yes.
Pause,
That's it.
please.
I
I'll be
have
right
I
back.
have only bad guys. I have a Dr. Doom here also. And I have Darth Vader. Both.
All right. While Chase is looking, let's go to Larry's question here. Should
Oh, sorry.
individuals be allowed to own military-grade encryption tools with no restrictions?
Military grade encryption tools. Oh, got it. Took me a second. Okay. Okay, Chase. You win. Chase wins. 100 points, Chase. I do not have a lightsaber. All right.
That's
I
pretty
just
good.
got outdone. I can accept defeat. I accept. I yield. So yes. But to answer your question, of course, I don't know why would there be any issue? You should be able to protect yourself with your privacy as you see fit. And no matter how cool your encryption is, your protection is, the government's going to try to find a way to get in anyway. But it doesn't matter. I think you should be able to. You can defend your privacy as you see fit.
Okay.
I put all of my secrets in a small box that has a combination lock. It's similar to the Da Vinci Code. This is where I keep all my private information. I feel like going analog in this digital world, that's the real way you're going to keep your data away from government, is if you just hide it all in a small device, codex, if you will, and just keep it all off the internet.
Well,
that's
joke's
what
on you, Larry, because military grade means mass produced by the cheapest bidder. So it's all open source encoding anyways.
There we go. So either way, you're good. Any way you want. There we go. Exactly right. Yes.
Larry got 500 for saying Vager plus with that awesome accent. Minus 100 to Larry for redistributing everyone else's questions.
I got to read this here. I'm playing by the rules here. What are you guys doing? All right. Come on.
250 to Larry, freedom of choice. 100 to Chase for talking about the stupid government schools. Yeah, good stuff here. Keep them coming in the chat. We're trying to keep up with them. 21,000 people on. This is crazy. Ryan, to you. Should you be allowed to fly without submitting to TSA groping?
Oh, absolutely. Like, does anybody remember flying prior to September of 2001? There were still security measures, right? There were still things that you could do and couldn't do. You just didn't get molested in the process. Absolutely.
We are literally less safe with the TSA. The TSA actually has committed more crimes against us than they have stopped. I'm not making that up. So we are actually less safe with the TSA than we are without it. So yeah, I agree.
And prior to the TSA, every airport could have their own security, and it was private security with their own rules and regulations. And so you're actually promoting small, localized business and governance, not big, fat federal government with blanket provisions across the board.
Yep, absolutely. And if you want to get felt up by random strangers, there's someone who'll do it for free. It's fine. You can do it if you want to. You do you.
All right.
I don't think Chase knows he's on mute.
Oh, I said, well, am I allowed to throw a tangent onto the board real quick? Everybody complains about, when has free market ever worked? When has private industry ever worked? And I talk about the FAA. And, in Canada, they have private air traffic control. And Canadian planes are not falling out of the sky. They work really well. And it's something we might want to do considering our FAA is kind of having problems and needs to update.
Great point, especially for those in the New Jersey area who haven't been able to fly in quite some time, from what I understand. So, all right, Chase, back to you. Should the federal government be banned from detaining nonviolent immigrants?
Yeah, I honestly think if you're here to be peaceful and live here, you should not be impeded. And me, as somebody who wants to maybe rent to an immigrant or hire an immigrant, I shouldn't be impeded from doing so long as the person I'm hiring is peaceful, and not violating other people's liberty. Why not? I maybe it's because I lived in a really immigrant-rich community during some of my time here in Atlanta, so it's just not something that freaks me out.
I liked living in a Mexican community because Irish can't cook, so that was the best food to eat. So,
I mean, Ryan's got us all beat. Well, no, actually, honestly, Ryan, you're in El Paso. You're in a very immigrant community, but Larry, you live in New York, so you live in the most immigrant.
1/3, yes, 1/3 of New York City residents are not born in the country. Another 1/3 are not born in the city.
All the transplants in Atlanta are just people who lived in other areas of the South and transplanted to Atlanta. Like people from Charlotte. That's the immigrants we get in Atlanta.
You got some good points for the lightsabers too. The lightsaber. All right, back to it. Larry, to you. Should it be legal to hire anyone regardless of their immigration status?
This is a tough one because of the current laws, right?
A tough question, eh?
I'm happy with a tough question.
Okay.
Should, and I'll use the word should. Should, yes. The way it is now, not really. You really have to change the immigration laws, the taxation laws. You got to change everything. The system is made to where it doesn't work well, and the system should be made to where it does work well. So should, yes. With the way it is now, you've got to make a lot of changes.
I can give an example from El Paso on that when I was down there visiting Ryan, which is I met a restaurant owner who said he would love to hire immigrants to work in his restaurant, but is banned from doing so. And therefore, they now have to rely on charity and taxpayer funds to help allow them a place to live and to have the means to live while they wait for their asylum court date. And he's like, I would much rather hire these folks and let them earn their own living, feel like they're contributing to something, showing the authorities that they're willing to work for a good wage. And I'm prevented from doing so. And so that's just another example of government getting in the way of itself and then compounding the problem, because now you have charities stretched thin as well as taxpayer funds being stretched thin to help these people when they could be helping themselves. The government just got out of the way.
Yeah, you guys are nailing it. I don't even want to go to the next question. When you look at probably the 3 decades long problem of low birth rates, you look at our federal government essentially making immigration illegal and spiking a black market for immigration. What we're really hurting in that process is the economy. The economy is what's suffering most. We're not creating, enough populace from our own, right? And then even taking away birthright citizenship is going to make this worse. So you have to have immigration to sustain our economy, especially the way that we think we're trying to grow. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. We need to hire more, right? Not keep them out and not hire them at all. It's ridiculous.
All right, back to it. Ryan, your question. Should naturalization be entirely handled at the state level?
Ooh. So, all right, this would be where all the libertarian friends dock me points. I think there needs to be a standard at the federal level for naturalization, but I think we need to decentralize that process as much as possible, and make it really the culture of the community that you're naturalizing into. How we do business here in El Paso might have a different naturalization process than it would in San Diego or Miami or New York City or Omaha, Nebraska. I think there needs to be a cultural aspect tied to that. Of course, I think there should be a federal standard with knowledge of laws, the Constitution, how government is supposed to work versus how it really does work. But I would still like to minimize and decentralize naturalization to the smallest local level possible that can support it.
No way, no way, no way. Citizenship is national. It must be done by the feds. And it doesn't be done by the feds, but the rules have to be the feds. What does that mean? We should follow how we do it in most states, which is when you're registering your car, right? I do it here in New York. I'm sure it's in many states the same way. You don't have to register your car at the state government. You register it at a local gas station that follows the state rules. So it's privatized, right? So some private local place can do it, but they're just following state rules. We should copy the same thing. Locally, states can do it, make it privatized, whatever, but they follow whatever the Fed standard is. The Fed standard says you must do X, Y, and Z, and you get a green card. You must do X, Y, and Z, you get an orange card. You do X, Y, and Z, you become a citizen. Let the federal government set those standards because citizenship is federal, but just let the private sector locally do it.
I don't think we're that far apart, Larry. I think we're pretty close to saying the same thing.
Oh, okay. Then we're good then.
You said it better than I did, though, so points to you.
I'm also better looking, which is another good part.
Debate.
There we go. Let's do it. Let's do it, man. Let's do this. That's it.
All right, Chase, to you. States' rights is the category. Should states be able to ignore federal gun laws?
Well, I think states and individuals should be able to ignore unjust gun laws. Unfortunately, you're going to get busted in the real world by that. But I believe gun laws are unjust and unconstitutional to begin with. And so, but I just want to just preface this entire section by saying states do not have rights. Individuals have rights. It doesn't matter what size that state is, whether it's a nation, a state, or a city. Individuals have rights.
All right. Larry, to you. Should states be able to reject federal education mandates?
They actually, in most cases, already can. Right. The issue here is money, right? The government controls via cash. So this is why we want to break down the Department of Education. The Department of Education controls the states through money. Do as we say, or we will not give you the money. They don't actually force them to do anything. They can just, a state can say no. A school can say no, but they won't get the cash. If you turn the DOE into only one thing, a repository for information that school districts may purchase from if they choose to or not. Now this is a central place you can call if you have a question, and that's all it is. There's like 7 people in it in the entire thing, and that's the end of it. And there's no money going out. Once the money is no longer there, all the DOE could do is if it wants to, it could create standards that it thinks is nice or create rules that it thinks is good and that people can locally follow it if they want to. So they already can. They should be able to. The issue isn't the mandate. The issue is the cash. In fact, we found out when Trump got rid of all of those of the money coming out, about 33% of every state's budget comes from the federal government. That has to end.
We started a debate here in the chat. Minus 100 to Larry. Ryan is Dreamboat, but Peace Logic's 5,000 to Larry for being good looking. 1,000 to Chase. The rights belong to the people, not the government. Belay said Jefferson was right. State decisions should hold far more credence than federal. 250 to Larry for sign language. Yeah, some good points there. Ryan, to you. Should states be allowed to legalize any drug without federal interference?
Yes. Local nullification should be a thing, even at the state level.
All right. Chase, to you. Should states be able to defy the federal income tax? You're muted, Chase.
Yeah, that mute button's hard for you, buddy.
Yeah, my bad with this whole mute button. I think we should abolish the mute button. So I want to abolish the income tax. But I do think if you're going to be part of the federal government, you're going to have to abide and contribute to whatever compact there is. Not saying, you don't have the right to get out of that, but while you're in it, you'd have to abide. Now, we should get rid of the federal income tax. Absolutely. And I'll fight for any state or any individual who wants to do that.
Look, how it's supposed to happen, and it doesn't obviously, is individuals shouldn't be paying anything to the federal government, right? Unless they're using the services for some reason. What should be happening, and again, this is should not, it doesn't happen, is the state should be on their own sovereign, right? We aren't provinces, right? We are actually states. We're supposed to know and be able to deal with our own citizens. And the states, in theory, should pay some form of taxation or whatever it is, or agreement or stipend to the federal government for things like, keeping the borders safe and fighting wars and things of that sort. Any type of, judicial issues in between states, things like that, a Supreme Court, that kind of stuff. That's what should be happening. The idea that individuals pay the federal government is by itself broken. It should not exist. States who want the protection of the federal government and states who want the court systems and things like that, the federal government should be paying individually. That's how it should work.
Yeah, Larry nailed that one.
Rebecca Massey's here, who's a former contestant. She was on the Ladies of Liberty night. She's given 1,000 to Chase for running for POTUS, and Ryan's showing the pen off. Very nice. All right. Larry, to you. I feel like every answer is Larry's answer, but
because I just keep yapping. You gave me the choice to yap, so I'm going to yap.
Yeah. So, Larry, should state nullification of federal law be considered legal?
And under one circumstance, is it constitutional or not? Right? If it's constitutional, then the state is supposed to adhere to it. If it's not constitutional, right? The issue is we have so many judges now who are activist judges based upon their personal opinions, not based upon the Constitution. So yes, as long as it's not constitutional, we're supposed to be fighting back. Our judges are supposed to be fighting against unconstitutional laws. They don't do that. So the states have to, and I'm okay with that.
All right, Ryan, to you. Should states control all land and resources within their borders, including federal lands?
Yes, for a lot of the same reasons that Larry already mentioned. And honestly, to be fair, I think we need less federal land included in that as well. Some federal land, such as military installation, or maybe some, national parks for historic purposes, sure. But it's all public land, and it should be turned back over to the public.
Chase, to you. Should a state be allowed to secede from the union peacefully?
Yeah. And, I wouldn't probably advise it at this point, honestly, but they should have the right to do it. And in fact, at the Libertarian Party of Georgia, I was the second in terms of putting that into our state platform. So when it came to putting it on our state's platform, I was right there leading the charge and leading that debate, but probably not a good idea. Well, maybe, who knows? New York, you think New York would be fine without any federal government there? Larry?
No. Are you kidding me? My state, our entire plan for any problem is federal funds. That's our plan for everything. My state is in debt. My state is collapsing. No, we would look, I would love for it to happen so we might change faster. But in reality, my state would collapse without Uncle Joe's money. It would totally collapse.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep.
I would like to advocate for California in the world's 8th largest economy to secede.
But California can survive on its own because California has advantages. California has a ton of cash. California is big enough to create its own central bank. California also still has a little bit of Hollywood left. They're still making money.
I already agreed with you. You don't have to sell it to me.
No. But my point, you're missing my point. If California did that and actually went on their own and survived on their own, they would wind up doing something dumb like invading Utah or invading Colorado for water. That's the problem. They would wind up invading for water. That's the issue. It starts off good. It ends with invasion. And they have all the cool bases. They got the Marine Corps base there too, Army bases there, Air Force bases. I don't want invasion.
You'd go to war for Botox.
For Botox, yes, they would. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
We should give them the shot. We should start a petition.
Half of their population now is moving into Boise. They'd wind up having a rebellion in Idaho.
All right, Larry, to you. Should states have their own immigration policies?
Absolutely not. No. Immigration is federal. People don't like it, but it's federal. No. Now, again, can they control it on their own? Can we privatize it? Absolutely. The rules should be easy to come in. As I talked about years ago, we should have some form of very simple Ellis process. We should be able to have people come in and work. But this is federal guidelines. Let the states and let it privately be done. But federal guidelines. Immigration is federal. And by the way, I also live in a border state. It's Canada, but it's a border state.
That maple syrup, methanol or whatever that they keep worrying about coming across that Trump keeps talking about, or fentanyl. Fentanyl is what I was looking for there. All right.
Look, I got Trudeau on my border. So, okay.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right, Ryan, to you. Should states be able to ban the use of federal agencies within their borders?
I think states should be able to take jurisdiction over certain investigations within their borders for sure. If it's not an international issue or a cross-boundary state issue, then we shouldn't have federal agencies within the states taking jurisdiction on those cases.
The biggest issue we have right here is wire fraud, right? This is the issue. Wire fraud is the issue. If anyone is on a case and they say wire fraud, you should always vote not guilty. Wire fraud is not a crime. Is knife murder a crime? No, murder's a crime. Wire fraud is fraud. What does wire fraud actually mean? Wire fraud means something might have crossed the state line. I'm not joking this. Here's what actually happens. If me and Chase decide to commit a crime and we do it in Atlanta, me and him, we talk in Atlanta, we do it in Atlanta, we commit the crime in Atlanta, we do everything in Atlanta. If the feds want to get Chase because he ran for president, they go, hey, did Chase use a cell phone? He did. He called Larry that one time on a cell phone. Well, that cell phone might have bounced off of a tower in South Carolina, maybe. Therefore, we'll charge Chase with wire fraud and we'll make it a federal offense. I'm not joking. That's how they actually do it. Then they add the commerce clause on top of that. Go, well, commerce clause, didn't Chase rent a vehicle? And when he swiped his credit card, when he rented that getaway car, didn't that maybe go across board? Yeah, that's going to be commerce clause. So they will use all those things. And the commerce clause when it comes to criminal prosecutions, number one. Number two, end wire fraud as a crime. Fraud is a crime. Wire fraud is not a crime.
All right.
Larry, why do you keep drinking out of the empty coffee mug?
Say it again.
Why do you keep drinking out of the empty coffee mug? You're like a bad movie.
It's water. There's water in it now. I just had coffee before I got on. Hold on. No. Hold on. You're talking trash. Hold on. I gotta show you now, right? Hold on.
All right. Let's all hydrate. Let's all hydrate. My new mug from our store here, the Steal Your Wealth mug, available in the Freedom Superstore.
Here is my coffee mug, which has my company logo on it.
Here we go.
That's my coffee mug.
All right, Chase, to you. Anti-war, Chase. You're a great voice for the anti-war movement. Should the U.S. military close all overseas bases?
Yes. And I think we need to start looking at doing that with the Middle East bases first, where it's the hottest areas of contention and where there's the most potential for blowback. But even places like Ramstein Air Force Base, I'm happy to let the Germans control that Air Force Base because they're always going to let us use it. We're an ally of theirs, but we don't need to be putting our foreign footprint everywhere. And I think it would be a good sign if we could reduce our footprint down to only protecting ourselves from invasion, as opposed to creating the ability to invade anywhere in the world at any time.
There's an exception here, though, right? We do have to do two things. One, we have a bunch of agreements that we've written, peace agreements, peace treaties, SOFA, which is status of forces agreements, many of those. All of them have an opt-out clause. So what we have to do is literally just make the opt-out clauses for all of them. Execute all of the opt-out clauses for all of our bases so that we know over time they'll all start coming down. The other issue is once you start closing these bases, you're going to bring a whole bunch of troops home, which I'm happy with. But again, people often say, bring them home and discharge them. You don't want to do that. You don't want to bring them home and discharge them. You do that, you're going to put 1 million unemployed veterans into the streets. That's not a good idea. Let them all finish up their term, whatever that term is. They're on 4 years, 6 years, 2 years. Let them know they will not be re-enlisting, giving them time to figure out how to make this happen. Not just that, one more piece. At the moment, there is no other way for us to keep our trading routes open except for the United States Navy to patrol those seas. I don't like that idea. We shouldn't be the world police, but there's no other Navy that could actually do it. The only way to keep our trade routes open is to have enough bases, whatever that number is that 6 or 8, whatever that is, that number that we can keep our trade routes open.
I would agree with what Larry says about the Navy. I've worked in shipping for years, and you do have to keep shipping lanes open. And in fact, that's one of the few areas where our military creates goodwill through its action by making sure that piracy does not affect trade. I can talk. I know folks who work in the container shipping industry who have been saved by the United States Navy when literal pirates are trying to board ships. So that is a real concern. My one caveat is listen, I understand the Houthis are shooting at ships. If that happens, you have the right to shoot back right then and there. What you don't have the right to do is weeks later blow up an apartment building that has lots of innocent people in it for the purposes of getting one person who may or may not have planned launching an attack on a container ship. That's not cool. But if you see someone with a shoulder-fired rocket launcher launching at a ship, a Navy ship has every right to attack and respond to that. But it doesn't give you the right to plan airstrikes weeks later, and certainly not doing it on signal, where you invite a journalist and where you have complete lack of operational security. And so I think, just to circle it back to modern day events, I think we all know what I'm talking about. We need to hold people accountable for such major screw-ups like that.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to something as simple as recognizing that names mean things, right? We're the Department of Defense, not the Department of War, for a reason. And so if Homeland Defense is supposed to be the purpose, right, then, we can have the debate about the Bretton Woods Act and shipping routes, and I think you can have good faith arguments on either side. But if we have bases in Korea, Germany, Japan, Iraq, Qatar, are we defending the homeland, or are we just forward staging for future offense?
Yeah, good point.
I think Larry's using your move here, Ryan. 100 points to Larry for recognizing vets, so from his own account. So,
well, that's because I have teammates who post for me.
They need burners. Did we not learn anything from politicians?
We have
Nancy
tons
Mace
of
was
them.
just outed for having 20 burners or something like that. So
I don't need burners. I trust my team. They can post for me. They know who I am. They've been with me for years.
Larry, do you know how many Marines it takes to change a light bulb?
We don't change light bulbs.
3.
No, it
One to hold the light bulb and 2 to turn the ladder.
No. The sailors turn the light bulb. We don't do that. We don't do that. That's why we hire sailors. They do that.
all right, Larry, to you. Should Americans be able to refuse to fund wars with their taxes?
It's a good question. We'll go back to the should piece, right? When it comes to should, I think, yes, should, but that's not how it works, sadly. Would it be better if we could decide where our taxes go in some way, shape, or form? But I'd rather just not have taxes. The point is the state should be paying the tax in the first place. If we're going to go to should the American people should be paying direct tax to the federal government at all? The state should be saying, I'm okay with this. And could a state boycott? Sure, why couldn't it? That was one of the reasons when I was talking about running for governor, I was actually going to take some time to change the entire school system to where I don't require any federal funds. At that point, we could sue the federal government and say, why are we taking all this money? We're not taking the money back. So a state should be able to do that and say, this is a dumb war. I don't want to be part of this war, that kind of thing. Individuals shouldn't be paying the government at all, the federal government.
All right. Ryan, to you. Should drone strikes be banned outside declared wars?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And we need to clearly define what the rules of engagement are and who's got engagement authority for those strikes.
All right. Chase, to you. Criminal justice and family law reform. Should all nonviolent drug offenders be released immediately?
Absolutely. I campaigned on that for president. So, yes, I would do that 100%. How many points does Sonny get me? My cat, Sonny. He's adorable, right? Look at him. He's so innocent. He is so innocent of all drug crimes, and he should also be released. Go away. You're good.
There is a problem with that. There's a problem with that too, though. And I have that issue right now in New York. Many of the people that we put into jail were nonviolent. but some of them now are violent. We've made them violent by putting them in prison for so long.
Oh, well, I mean,
So
if
we
you
do have to worry.
if you're harming somebody in jail, you still have, that's an additional offense that does get added. But if you're someone who's been a model, model citizen, model prisoner, not harmed anybody, kept yourself out of anything, you should not be penalized just for being arrested for, using a controlled.
Yes. I just want to make that caveat, because it does happen. Again, not their fault. We put them in there, but some of them have become violent because we put them into a violent environment. And if we let them out, they're still violent. So we have to somehow assist them in some way, shape, or form before we let them out, because we've made them violent.
Yeah, I call prisons trauma factories. What we do is we put somebody in who has been through a trauma, drug use, addiction, and we re-traumatize them over and over again throughout that period. Sometimes they can get their hands on drugs there, but if they can't, the first thing they're going to get when they get out of jail to comfort that trauma is the drugs themselves. And so it creates recidivism through the treatment of prisoners. And so that's one of the things we really need to examine when we look how we treat prisoners, because the very brutality that we're subjecting them to allows them to be returning back in that revolving door.
All right.
Let's just remember someone's teased me about the light bulbs. Remember our sailors, right? Look, I love my sailors. I love my brothers in the Navy, but let's be very clear about something, just to be very clear. They service us. Just saying that. That's all.
I will not make the joke that's sorry.
I don't mind. I'm the one being serviced, Chase. I'm okay. I don't mind.
More ways than one.
Yes.
Heyo. Okay.
All right. Larry, to you. Should the family court system be completely abolished?
It absolutely can be, and not all states have a family court system, right? The goal of making a family court system was to make it better. That was the goal, but in reality, it hasn't worked at all. Family court is a disaster. It winds up crushing people. And the problem with family court system is it's seen as the kids' table for judges. Judges don't want to be in the family court system, so don't take it seriously. They hammer people. It's terrible. So I would rather get rid of it completely. You could make a separate system, but at least the judges will now feel like they're doing something important. Sadly, most judges think that family court is the least important court. I would argue it's the most important, because if we have better family courts, we will have less people committing crimes, less fatherless families, less broken families. So yes, it should be abolished as long as we know we can take it seriously.
The cat worked out well for Chase here. Lots of points for the cat. Used the burning tea move of bringing an animal on. That's always a good move on the show. Ryan, to you. Should qualified immunity for police be eliminated?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is coming from someone that received the endorsement of the local police association for a previous partisan race. You make them carry personal liability insurance like almost every other major profession does. But ending qualified immunity will help weed out the bad police so that we can truly support the Back the Blue movement with the folks that don't do shady stuff on the side.
There's also an added benefit to that whole liability thing, which is if you're an officer who acts well and does well and has a low insurance rate because of that, your department can offer you a bonus to make up for that. So it actually incentivizes you to be a good officer who pays attention, doesn't violate the civil liberties of people, and holds people accountable when you see another officer violating those liberties, because you know that's going to really ding you and your insurance rates in the long run. So it is a private incentivizing way to make cops be a little bit more honest. And
you have to add one more piece to that. You want to also make sure that you allow the unions to be insurance brokers. This way they can actually make cash off of people paying insurance. It incentivizes them to keep their guys clean, doing the right thing, so they can keep paying the insurance. They get cut off of it. So you also want to add on to that. I'm doing a yes and allow unions, so they'll get behind it. Otherwise, unions don't want to get behind this. Allow them to be insurance brokers. They'll get behind it.
Yeah, it's an internal checks and balances, right? And no pun intended, because usually when you investigate yourself, you'll determine you did nothing wrong. But when there's a monetary value tied to what you did, the checks and balances is going to be a lot more transparent.
All right. Chase, to you. Should private citizens be allowed to record all government officials at all times?
I mean, I don't think you should be able to walk into the restroom and record people, but yeah, anytime they're doing official government actions, anytime they're on the job, you should be able to record somebody who is doing the work of government, and that includes police. But I think they should have to record themselves. This is why I support mandatory body cam laws. We have them in every department in Georgia except for the Georgia Highway, the State Highway Patrol. And the Georgia State Patrol, rather, and they say they don't need them because mostly they just pull over speeders and they have dash cams. But one in every 3 shootings that department does happens outside of that dash cam. And so, you need to be holding government accountable, particularly those who do have the literal badge and gun. They should be watched at all times to make sure they're not doing anything shady. And sometimes we catch them doing shady stuff on those body cams, like planting drugs on folks.
Your video is glitching a little bit, Chase. I don't know if there's a way to fix that.
My bad. Let me pop out. I'll be right back. I'll pop out and back in.
Okay. Larry, to you. Should plea deals be illegal in criminal cases?
No, they should not be illegal, but here's the rule. If you do a plea deal, whatever that deal is, you shouldn't be able to change the deal at the end of it. So if I'm a prosecutor and I say, hey, if you agree to X, Y, and Z, I will, you can do 5 years, whatever time is. Just because I decide to say no to it, I don't get to now go, well, now 15 years. If a prosecutor believes and a judge believes that 5 years is the appropriate time to do, you don't get them to do more because the guy used his rights. You're being punished for using your rights. You, in theory, pay your taxes to go have a court system. In theory, you get your rights, protected by the government and the Constitution, supposedly. But now all of a sudden, I want to use my jury right, and I got to pay more. So no, it should be absolutely legal. If you want to make a deal, make a deal. I don't have a problem with that. But if that prosecutor presents that deal for X, Y, and Z, you get this amount of time. It doesn't change. The judge can't change it. The prosecutor can't change it afterwards. That's what you thought was true. You make that the rule, and it's fine.
All right, Ryan, to you. Should victims, not the state, decide the punishment for crimes against them?
No, because then I think you're going to get personal bias. I think justice needs to be fair, blind, deaf, mute, and that standard needs to be set.
I think it should be a part of it, though, right? There's an issue. I think there should be a part of it. The problem is right now, what happens now is judges just use a rubric. They literally just have a rubric, and they go, okay, he did X, he had Y, it was this, he did that, and they add more. And they have these things, these extra things they add on top of it. Literally, this is how it actually works. If you actually testify yourself and you're convicted, the judge will throw more time on top of it. And his logic is, well, you must have lied. I'm not joking. So if you defend yourself, you get more time. If you don't take a plea deal, you get more time. That kind of rubric is garbage. That has to go away. So we have to have a system to where you only get X, Y, and Z, though, every single time the victim should be able to testify in front of the judge to give them their opinion. Because sometimes the victims don't want it, and victims should matter. But here's your problem. The question is wrong. The question's bad because the victim is actually the state. The crime is against the state. The crime isn't against the person. I wish it was. Because here's the problem. If it was, you'd have to give them some retribution. We don't. The state collects. The person doesn't. I wish we had a system to where if you rob me, here's what happens, Ryan. You rob my house. And now you go to jail. That's great. I lost my stuff that you stole because you bought drugs with it. So now you went and did that. So I lost my stuff. My insurance rates go up. I got robbed twice. I had to pay taxes for you to go to jail. I got robbed 3 times. And I got to pay for you in prison. I got robbed 4 times. How do I get my money back? I don't. And the prosecutor says, justice is served. You robbed me 3 extra times and I got nothing back. That's not justice. So,
well, let me ask this, Larry. In that same construct, right? What if I robbed you and you use that logic? You could just, if you set the sentence, you could just put me to death.
No, I didn't say set a sentence. What I said was I should be able to talk to the judge, and I don't. It should be normal that when you're convicted, the judge is going to have sentence. Well, you get to say something. I should say something too. I should say, you know what? Ryan robbed me, but I'm a super Christian and I want to forgive him. Judge, please do not be harsh on him. I believe in him, or the reverse. He has traumatized me and my entire family. He devastated us. Judge, destroy him. I should be able to tell the judge what I think, but the judge is to decide.
Well, I think you should be able to have some kind of input on that stuff as a victim. You should be able to have some kind of input and to speak to those things. But I do think that we're forgetting that there is also civil adjudication. And so that if you are wrong, let's say you're an organization and someone on your organization frauds you and embezzles a whole bunch of money out of your organization, not only is there a criminal penalty for that, but there's also a civil penalty. You can recuperate that money from them by proving in court that they did, in fact, fraud an organization, say tens of thousands of dollars. So there's a way to do that, both civilly and criminally, to hold people accountable.
I agree with Chase on that one. So I'm gonna give him the kayfabe high five for tag team. But I think your point goes back to emotional sensationalism, right? Sometimes you may feel like it was fine, you're going to forgive me. Other times you think I need to be put to death for it, and there's no set standard there. And that's my bigger concern.
But the problem with civil court is civil court depends. This is the old thing that lawyers will always tell you: can you afford justice? If I don't have enough cash for a lawyer, I can't do a civil case. I'm just screwed.
Yeah, there's no public prosecutor's office.
Correct.
Right.
There's no public prosecutor for civil. So no, I can't do it. I don't get justice unless I'm wealthy. So that's why I think it's unfair. And again, I'm not saying the judge has to listen to me, right? If a judge hears me whine and cry all the time, they're gonna know, oh, this guy's just whining and crying. Or maybe there's mitigating circumstances that judge didn't know, because I can't get that in. The problem is when you're doing I consult on criminal court cases, how I know this. When you're actually doing an actual criminal case, you can't get a lot of stuff in. The judge won't let you in because they don't want the jury to see it. But once the person is convicted, now I can say, please don't hammer Ryan. It isn't as bad as I said. The prosecutor was exaggerating, or the reverse. They didn't say all these other things. He did so many other bad things to me. And again, the judge has to decide. That's why the judge is there.
Well, I'm on season 3 of The Lincoln Lawyer, so I think I know some things.
Oh yeah, true. You're right. I saw.
I live with a lawyer, so I'm pretty sure I'm exactly as educated as he is. Now, yeah,
I stand corrected.
I don't remember whose question it was now.
That was Ryan's.
Okay. So Chase, to you, education and parenting. Should the Department of Education be abolished?
Yeah. And it's another thing that I ran on. Ultimately, I think we need to decentralize education away from not just the federal level, but even the state level. I think if the state's going to be involved in anything, they should just directly fund parents to choose where their kids go to school at most. But ultimately, we want to just fully pull ourselves away from having a centralized authority to determine what curriculum needs to be taught by whom and how, and really create a free market and laboratories of innovation when it comes to education, so we can do what's best for our students who want to become critical thinkers and lifelong learners, and not just cogs for the machine that right now too many in public education are churning out to become.
All right, Larry, to you. Should parents control 100% of education dollars via vouchers or credits, like Chase just said, because he is, looking ahead, apparently?
Not vouchers or credits. It simply has to follow the kid. That's the issue. Once you say the word vouchers, you've made a situation where, oh, you're stealing money from the private school. You've made a terrible argument that people are going to be mad at. It's not going to work. Just use what Corey DeAngelis says, and he's right when he says this: the money follows the kid. So yes, but not using the words vouchers or credits. Yes, without that. That phrase has been made to say, if you say that, people who like the public school system immediately call you evil and mean. So yes, without those words.
Fair. Ryan, to you. Should homeschoolers be exempt from all education regulations?
All? No. I think there should be some basic set standards. Now, whether that's at the local level, the county, the state, the federal, that's a different debate. But I think there does need to be some educational standards, or else what's the point? Now, how they want to do that, and even being on a public school board, I'm an advocate for homeschoolers or co-ops or charter schools or even private schools. How you get to the end can vary, but I think there still needs to be a minimal level of education met, if nothing else, to make sure that our students, when they reach the age of adulthood, have the basic education necessary to be successful in life.
All right, Chase, to you. Should parents be able to block all government data collection on their children?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we're seeing more and more parents doing to try to combat that, in the real world kind of way, like obviously you should be able to protect your kids' data as much as possible. And in the real world, a lot of parents are just literally keeping their kids' faces from being online. And much of this is due to they don't want facial recognition stuff on their kids. And I'm fine. I think that's a good thing. It's why you see a lot of people when they share pictures of their kids, they have like smiley face emojis over the face, those kinds of things. So yes, you should be able to protect your kids, and there should be more tools in the marketplace to keep parents informed as to what data is being used and what data is not being used.
Larry, to you. Should parents be allowed to refuse any medical procedure on their child without penalty?
It's a tough call on that one, because what if the child is going to actually perish, right? So what happens if it's an EMT situation when the parent isn't there, things like that. So generally speaking, yes, with exceptions of emergencies like your kid's hit by a car and you're not there and the EMTs are there and they decide to do whatever EMTs do to try to save your child. So yes, with that exception, with the Good Samaritan exception.
Okay. Ryan, to you. Should minors require parental consent for any interaction with the state?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. If my kid has to go talk to the principal for anything outside of basic disciplinary actions, I want to know about it. And that should equate to the school district police, the city police, the district attorney. It doesn't matter. Parents should be present for that.
All right, Chase, to you. Oh, that's it. Let's check out the scores here.
Free, I believe that was an hour and 22-minute lightning round. Is that?
That was a little longer than I anticipated on the lightning round. Yeah.
There's more?
Let's check a few. No, we can be done here.
This is okay. I'll let you calculate the scores though, but that was literally what was said by. I was in an immigration debate. It was me and Robbie Soave from Reason debating a couple of folks who were very anti-immigration. And an hour into the debate, someone goes, "All right, for the second half of the debate," and he literally just goes, "There's more of this shit."
All right, let me pull up the scoreboard here. Give me 1 second. All right, you ready for the final tally, gentlemen?
Oh, we are done. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Rock and roll.
Done? Okay.
Oh, we had a close race. Chase pulled it out 53.99, and Larry just behind him with 5,300, and Ryan a good showing at 2,000. So what'd you think, guys? Let's start with Ryan since he was in third place here. Ryan, what'd you think?
Yeah, I knew coming into tonight I was going to be the underdog. We have some pillars of liberty on the show tonight. And for me being a last-second throw-in, I felt pretty good. And to be fair, I'll never lose the Mike Decentralized. And so third place is a good finish for me tonight.
Very fair. All right, Larry, you got second place. What did you think of the show?
Totally fixed. Totally rigged. I should have won. I'm kidding. It's fine. It's all good. I'm glad Chase won. Chase is a great guy. I'm glad he won. Congrats, Chase. I mean, you got a lightsaber, so that was kind of right there. You just won on that. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well,
Chase, what'd you think? You're the big winner tonight.
Well, I'm very honored to be the winner here. And, speaking of the lightsaber and Star Wars and Andor and all that, one of the things I would remind people out there who are fighting for liberty is to remember the empire is a brittle thing that breaks and leaks. It requires constant supervision. And remember, there are thousands of battlefields of liberty happening all over the world. And as long as you're contributing to that, you're helping to form the lines of rebellion against the statist empire, which we currently live under. So make sure you are a rebel in your life in any way possible. And fight the empire. And I'll be there fighting along with you, along with everybody on this panel.
Anything you want to plug, Chase?
Well, you know what? Follow me on social media, of course, and keep a lookout. I'm going to be, traveling a little bit. I'll be at Fort Wayne, Indiana Pride this July. I'll be heading to the Libertarian Party of Ohio State Convention in August. And I will be heading to the UK to be debating at the Cambridge Union Hall this November. I will be debating on the motion. The founding fathers would be disappointed in today's America. surprise, surprise, I will be debating in the affirmative on that motion. So look forward to me spreading liberty across the country and into the UK this November.
Larry, anything you'd like to plug?
Well, he talked about some Star Wars, which I like, but I'm gonna do a bit of Star Trek. Don't forget, from the original Star Trek back in the 60s, in the episode Mirror Mirror, when there's an evil empire and then there's the Federation, evil Spock says, Terra must be maintained or the empire will fall. Yes, they terrorize us, and that's how they keep us. So we can stop that by doing what Chase is talking about, going out there and doing things. I will be at Freedom Fest next month in Palm Springs, June 11th through 14th. I'll also be at the California Libertarian Party in late July. And of course, you can watch my show, The Sharpe Way, plugging it right here. Please watch it almost every day at 7 p.m. I didn't do it today because I'm here, but usually tomorrow at 7 p.m. Please watch my show. It is live. I take questions. I go back and forth. It's a fun time. Please watch it every day. If you don't, you hate the children. Don't hate the children. Watch my show.
I will be at Freedom Fest as well with Mike Decentralized, so we will see you there. Ryan, anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, hey, first and foremost, thanks Chase and Larry for coming on tonight. You guys are amazing. It's great just to be included on a panel with y'all. For everybody watching out there, get involved locally. You don't have to be an elected official to make a difference. Every city council or township or you name it will have some type of citizen, volunteer, board or commission that you can help serve on. And your voice may be the one voice of liberty on that board that helps saves taxpayer dollars or whatever that cause is that you may be concerned with. So get involved locally. Get involved with the local Liberty chapter, your local party chapter, and let's make a difference at the ground level, a real grassroots campaign for liberty.
I want to add one more piece of clarity, if I could. I don't hate my sailors. I love my sailors. Obviously, I work with them. All our docs are sailors. All our chaplains are sailors. I love my sailors. It's you Air Force guys I hate. I'm kidding. It is, if you're in the military, you know we rip each other all the time. It's all good. The Army guys I hate. I'm kidding.
I'm going to add Terry back in. Terry was busy at work with 27,000 plus people, and the chat was on fire. Terry, what'd you think tonight?
I truly loved tonight. I really did. Ryan, I'm so proud of you. You know I am. You know I love you. Chase and Larry, you guys were awesome. You had this chat blowing up. People have learned so much tonight, and that always excites me. So great job, everybody. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go take a nap now.
Well, I also want to say thank you. Three guys I admire greatly, excellent messengers of liberty and, how to get involved, and people that reach out and help other people and lift people up. You guys do such great things, and you're such, it's great that you're out there all the time. And I'm really honored that you were willing to do my funny little game show. This has been a huge thrill for me. We're actually going to do a space probably starting around 10 o'clock, maybe even a little earlier, if anybody wants to jump in there and talk about the show. But again, thank you for everybody. Thank you, chat. You guys were awesome. Some great comments. You added a lot to the show. You guys make the show better. Really appreciate you. And we'll see you next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Live from the Libertarian Party of Florida convention with Spike Cohen, Stephen Nikela, and Matt Johnson. So that's going to be another huge show. So we're really looking forward to it. Peace out. See you all later.